Brian Lewis is here. He was named one of Manhattan's premier brokers by New York Living Magazine, and recently People Magazine named him his video marketing as the most inventive the real estate world has ever seen. We're going to talk about that because I watch every one of them and I don't miss one.
They also said the weirdest, which I actually take.
They said the weirdest too? Well, I left that out of the copy because I didn't see that.
I like it a lot.
Nice. That's a compliment, right?
Exactly.
We like that.
Inman named him one of the top 10 most innovative agents in the USA, and the Wall Street Journal named him in the top 150 in the USA. He works as a top agent at Halstead Property in their Upper West Side office and has done so for the last 16 years. That's where I met Brian. He was born in Richmond, Virginia, raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Brian realized his lifelong dream when he moved to New York City. So I say from bellhop to broker to the stars, this is the story of Brian Lewis. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me in here, Vince.
It's so good to see you.
Pleasure.
You know, I know you well, but my audience is going to get to know you better today. So, you know, everybody has a dream to come into New York City, you know, from wherever we are born and raised. I was from upstate New York, so my dream to come into the city was a big one. And I made it. But so my first question to you is, so why New York City? What was the lure or what was the attraction of a city as big as we are in lights and fame and whatever else?
Well, when I was a kid, I watched a lot of Sesame Street, and they had stoops. And I thought, what the heck is
there
a
you have
stoop? And I mean, clearly it made an impression. And this was an environment with a lot of different cultures and a lot of different viewpoints and characters. It was Sesame Street. It was PBS. Now they're on HBO, I think, right?
They moved to HBO, yeah.
How beautiful is that, though? I've never heard anybody say that. In Sesame Street, so indicative of New York City.
And then, as I got older, it became Saturday Night Live because this was where it was all happening. This is the big bad city. And coming from Richmond, we lived outside of the city. And then when we lived in Charlotte, we lived outside of the city. And then we lived in Atlanta, we lived outside of the city. So I always wanted to be where the action was. And so when we would go downtown to see Christmas ornaments and the lights and the life of a city, my heart raced. I felt like that's where life was happening. So when I went to William and Mary in Virginia, and I graduated in 91, and I had a little bit of money in my pocket just from graduation money. So I took it and I came right up to New York.
Wow.
And I couch surfed, and that was 1991.
Was that the first time you were here in New York?
No. In 1988. Gosh, I'm old. 1988.
Not as old as me, my friend.
I came up here right out of high school. I was doing a one-man show at Busch Gardens in Virginia. It was a lot of fun. And I was a 17-year-old guy with a job at Busch Gardens. I just got out of high school and was about to start college, and I had this performing show, and I was going to be a theater major at William & Mary, which I did. And it was fun. I mean, whose life was better than that? 1980s, looking like Kirk Cameron, big crazy curly hair, and you're working at Busch Gardens in a one-man show, and that was a lot of fun. But I got to know a director there, a really nice guy, and he moved on from Busch Gardens and came up to New York to direct a show off Broadway and put me in it.
Wow.
I will say it was off Broadway, right? So it was over on
theater is theater, especially when you're starting out.
I was a kid. I was 18. I was right out of high school, and I came up here. I remember working at Pizzeria Uno on 3rd Avenue in the East Village. And I lived in Alphabet City behind Tompkins Square Park, which is a very different experience in 1988-89.
Whoa.
That's what Jonathan Larson wrote about in Rent.
It was
wild.
Thank
you. And it was a different experience. So this kid from the South came up here, and I did the show, which I played a character that was like a fish out of water, a kid that kind of falls into this urban environment. So I wasn't even acting because I was living that every day, and then waiting tables at night. And I think that Uno's is now called The Smith or something like that on 3rd Avenue, right? So that's how I first came to New York, and it was like the big bad wild city. This was pre-cleanup of Times Square era. So I was intoxicated, enthralled, and scared you-know-what-less every day of my life here. And I thought, goodness, maybe New York is too much for me. And the place I lived in was a walk-up with a bunch of actors in it, and it was the East Village. So I went back to college, and I was debating, do I go to Los Angeles? Do I go to New York? And New York scared me more, so I came to New York.
So,
for you.
You worked as an actor, you did some stuff, you were fairly successful in that, Tell me a little bit about the bellhop stuff. So was that sort of in between to supplement income while you were trying to find other work?
It was a way not to get dirty at work. I as a waiter, I was a horrible waiter. And because I would always hang out with like one table and just talk to them and get to know them. So one table would have a freaking great experience.
And everybody else in the restaurant is
exactly.
like, waiter.
They're like, that guy sucks. This guy. Yeah. And then one person thought I was awesome. So that's not the way to make a living as a waiter. You're going to have all your bases covered. And also as a bellman, frankly. But I was studying with a lady named Uta Hagen, who's no longer with us. But she was a zenith. You can Google her. She was a zenith of talent.
She was unbelievable.
She was in Streetcar Named Desire with Marlon Brando. And she was really the actor's actor. So if Uta Hagen asked you to be in her class, it scared the crap out of you and you were excited and you did it. You did not say no to Uta Hagen. She had a handful of actors that she liked, and at the end of her career, I don't know if she liked me, but I was in her class. And I happened to live on Bank Street, and I was in a relationship where I was hot for teacher. This teacher that I had in college moved on. Anyway, that's a whole nother radio show. And I was living mostly on the couch. We have plenty of time. But I lived on Bank Street, and frankly,
that's nice.
There was Uta Hagen's studio, and frankly, I didn't even know much. I didn't know what a get that was. I just thought, well, there's an acting studio right down the street. I'll audition. I got in, and then I realized who she was. And that's the same way I went to William and Mary. I was 4 years old or 5 years old. We were walking through Colonial Williamsburg, as good Southern families do. And I said, I want to go to school there. It could have been the worst school in the world. It was just pretty. And I thought, I have to go to school there. And that's the only school I applied to. And I got in. So I see this happening to me a lot. Like I go, well, that's what I want early on. And I work toward it somehow. I keep it in my head. And I did that with Uta Hagen, and I got in. And I started doing that with commercials on TV and the soaps in the 90s, playing day players. I never scored a contract. And there was a casting director once that said, I don't understand that. I look okay now, but
you were perfect for
in the 90s. I was all that, but I had fun, and I never did enough of what I wanted. Like I kind of got stuck in that. It was 90210 days and all that auditioning for those kind of shows. And when you first get out there at 21 to 25, the competition is thick with people, but it weeds out, some become bellmen. And then they become real estate agents.
Let's hold the thought on that. We've got to go to commercial. You are listening to Good Morning New York on the Voice America Variety Channel. Don't go away. So, you say prior to your real estate career, your only connection to real estate was that you and your family moved a lot. Has that really prepared you for, what you are involved in today? I mean,
I think so.
Because everybody says, how do you become a real estate agent and how do you train for it?
And this is an industry of orphans. That's what I say.
Correct.
Unless you're born with a name like Trump or you're born with a name, your family's business, I think that you come at it. I mean, maybe that's changing actually, but I think you come at it as an orphan from something else. And
it's a second or third career.
Right. That's certainly the case here. I came here to be an actor. I did some of that. Maybe not as much as I wanted to, but life is long, y'all. Watch out. And then I went to the Actors Fund. There was a strike. I could not audition. So I was doing these big commercials, and in the 90s I was the Head and Shoulders guy and the McDonald's guy and the voice of the U.S. Army, and I did a lot of stuff. And so I made good money, but it was never enough for my taste.
When I first met you, you came off of a big movie, and I'm trying to remember.
A Beautiful Mind.
A Beautiful
Mind.
For
Russell Crowe for 4 months.
Yeah.
And frankly, I only had one little line in it, but I'd never really spent 4 months on a film set with Ron Howard or Russell Crowe or anybody like that. Roger Deakins, the camera guy.
That's top shelf.
It was a lot of fun. So I was asked by Russell. He made me audition for the role, and they said, oh, look, he fires people. Like, he's tough. So we hit it off to a degree. We weren't ever friends, but he was a tough boss. But I got on a film set for 4 months, and I got to learn what everyone did. I was a stand-in, which is weird. I mean, it's not really an acting job. You're not really a crew job.
But you're learning the business, though.
I watched everything.
Yeah.
It's like making a documentary. He made me get off book every day for my scenes.
Yeah.
And he made me run the scenes while he stood behind the camera. So there I was, Jennifer Connelly, Ed Harris, doing scenes with them. And I was sort of like, do I act it or do I just kind of hit my mark? Or I don't want to overstep. It's not about me. I'm a piece of furniture right now. But he would always shout out, act it, Brian. You got Ron Howard watching. So we had fun. I had fun, but I also had to learn patience, and I had to learn a lot about having someone, how to work with big egos was it, because I have a big ego, but I learned the merits of reining it in a bit.
Well, the real estate is also a profession of big egos at times. And I think, probably your background or anybody coming from an acting background, is best suited for this because, it's just like anything else, or what they say, you're only as good as your last gig.
That's
correct.
It. That's it.
So you've got to kind of make it work for you.
You also learn how to play a room. So
correct.
If this were a room full of 300 people like I had last week at the Inman Connect here in New York, that's a different talk, right? And not necessarily the content, but the audience. And if I'm showing a home to someone who is, multi-billionaire and they have an expectation of service, that's a different showing. If I'm working downtown with a friend who is an actor who got a couple gigs, who's doing a walk-up for, hold your breath, America, $500,000 or $600,000 for a walk-up little place in the back with no light, that's a different showing. But the through line is the service. And what I got out of the hotel industry, and by the way, I'll get to all of your questions circuitously, ultimately. The hotel industry really instilled that in me. The Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons. It was a little rigid for my taste. It was certainly my pleasure. But you have to kind of get into their shell of thinking in order for that to become part of your DNA. And so what I learned from them is that you really have to over-deliver in a nice way. And people will remember the feeling that you create more than what really happened. And so treat them well, treat them with dignity, treat them with respect, serve them well. And that really came in to my life in real estate too, because I don't always hit a home run. I don't. I fail every day, and that's what keeps me up and keeps me rocking. But I have some great successes too. When I was a kid, you mentioned the moving. We moved a lot because my dad, he didn't have the ability financially or time-wise, he had us when he was young, to go to college, to go to grad school. He could have been one of the great minds of business, my dad. He really has the fire. But that was stoked by my mother, who also comes from a similar background. So they were aspirational. And just to keep us in the middle class, I think was a bit of a challenge. So we moved where the jobs were, where the opportunities were, where dad could get a gig. The educated guys, the jobs came to them.
Correct.
We chased it.
Correct.
So we moved all around the South from, DC area to Roanoke to Atlanta to Charlotte. And I went to 4 high schools. I just thought that's what happened. I thought in the spring, a for sale sign is part of life. Like I knew how to mow the grass around the for sale sign and weed whack it, and I could clean
like
the
a military
room real quick.
kid, right?
Yeah, like a military kid, business military.
Sure.
Because my dad was with Sara Lee Corporation and Latex Corporation and Planters Peanuts and whatever the food industry was. He became man of the year with Sara Lee Corporation around the world, global.
Wow.
No one at his level had ever done that. And they were always being wined and dined and trips. It was the 80s. It was like the big 80s. And they got taken all these
big 80s and big
places.
business in the 80s.
Big business, big 80s. And he was a climber. And he did it. He rocked it. And he only just quit working last year. He worked for a dairy co-op and pushed milk around the state of Virginia and Delaware and Maryland. Always doing well. So sales, number one. Watching my dad work an office when he came into it. He had a presence. He was liked. He was admired. He got things done. He would bitch and moan to us later. I watched both sides. I saw conflict. I saw conflict resolution with him and my mom. It was, when money is always an issue.
It's hard.
That's always a backbreaker for any relationship. So I got to see that. We are anchored in our faith. I'm Methodist, but we're not like, throwing it around and at anybody's face. So we have a faith. We have a deep family connection. We're not perfect people, but I got to see that. And I knew when a real estate agent was good, when my parents were really happy and when it was seamless.
Absolutely.
And I got to watch that in action. I never said, I want to do that. I never said that, but I I saw a few as a kid. They'd meet us at, the airport or the train station, and we would be picked up and ushered around. And it was that stereotypical 1980s woman with big hair, quite frankly. Usually the South.
I wasn't going to say that, but
and
yes,
they're awesome
definitely.
because those, and I work with that spirit of person even here in New York, and some people dismiss that, but I got to tell you, they know where the bodies are buried. They know this industry, and the shiny new young guys and gals come at it.
Well,
and it's different.
Yeah.
They know, and they'll be there to the end, and that they have the best resources. They know the most people, and they rock. And that's why they're easily parodied, because they're rock stars.
Yeah.
But they're quiet rock stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, all of that was helpful. I think I answered a few questions there.
No, well, you did. But so to segue into, the career as a real estate agent, everybody starts somewhere. And like we talked about, some people come from a second and third career. These days, it seems like people coming out of college and wanting to do this for a whole variety of reasons. But how do you find success in a city as big as New York, as competitive as New York? And what are we, 15,000 agents? I mean, I keep losing track. So how do you find success in a field that is really very competitive, can be cutthroat, and, not loyal? I mean, people cannot be loyal most often aren't loyal to us, but you have found that niche, to really make it work.
I often put blinders on in life. I really do. I try to keep the noise out and keep the blinders on and know what my goal is. And I think that it's important to sort of set your mind to something. And I'm a visual guy. I don't write out goals. I just see them, like as a kid seeing the College of William and Mary, knowing I wanted to be part of that at freaking 4 years old. Not that it was just what I wanted. Seeing, New York and HB Studio and knowing that would be convenient and good, and getting into it, putting my mind to it. I know that sounds simplistic, but there's so much stuff where people are watching the competition a lot. It's almost like an athlete. You just keep your eye on your game and be a person of integrity and listen to people and be a person of your word and do your best and be good at messing up. If you mess up, know how to
get out of it.
Not just how to be crafty, but
finesse.
Own it.
Yeah.
Own it. I messed up. Okay, now what? And I mess up every day.
We all do.
We all do, because we're human beings. We're here. We're imperfect beings. But keep your mind on it's almost like climbing the stairs, right? And I'm also a person that likes to have fun. So I try to find fun in it. There are aspects of this business that to me aren't fun. I try to stay on the track of what is fun for me. For me, it's listings. I like producing things. I like to build the show that people want to see. That's that theater thing, I think. That to me is exciting. And it just builds and builds, and leverage every bit of success that you have from one little sale. Work that. Throw some fertilizer on that. Talk about that. And define yourself by it, and step by step by step. 16 years I've done it.
You are a listing agent premier. I mean, I've known you for many, many years, 14 of those 16 years, and you are definitely a listing agent. And one of the things I think that sets you apart, and I want you to talk a little bit about this, because again, there's so much competition out there. So many of us are doing the same things. But you have this, and it's obviously your theater and your acting background. You have this video phenomenon going on that you video every one of your listed properties. You not only show rooms like a virtual tour, you tell a story, you title it, you're acting in it, and I have to tell you something, and I mean this not just because I'm a friend of yours, but I don't miss one of them. I watch them, and I send them out to my people to watch. Tell us about how we have a minute left. We're going to go into the next segment because I'm not letting you go. But anyway, before we go for one more minute, how do you do this? I mean, and how much time does this take for you to produce these things?
Well, I'm doing one today, and it'll take about an hour and a half. And that doesn't sound like long, but we don't really know what we're going to do till we get in the room. If you want to see some of them, guys, humor me. It's BrianKLewis.com. Brian with an I, BrianKLewis, LEWIS.com. And you can see some of them. Look at two in particular. The People magazine one, they called 45 Christopher Street, 7G, the best real estate video, and weirdest, I said that at the beginning, ever. We did that like in an hour.
Which one was that?
It's not about the time. It's about the fun you're having. And, Halstead embraced the video thing early on. I was lit up like a Christmas tree because I thought that is what I want to do. And I'm just going to have fun with it. And they do let me, as long as it's not irreverent to the property, the process, or the client, and it brings more eyes to the prize, they love it. And those two are great. I kind of riff on them. We have fun. We have a video crew. I could do a whole segment on video and what I think about it. It's just an added value. It's not why I'm a success. It's just part of that, I think, because I have fun with it and I expand the dimensions of my sellers' properties. And
how do your sellers feel about them when they see them?
Some of them are like, what? Or they're like, oh, that's great, as long as it brings me more money. That's what a seller wants.
Brings me traffic, brings me open house people, brings me more money. And also check out 118 East 60th. I'm going to blast that out this week. That one is the most movie-like. And my friend Sue Goldman, who's a dear friend and Love
colleague,
Sue.
She said, you know what? I don't like it. I like you when you're funny. That's just too serious. But my friend Craig Zaden, who won the Oscar for Chicago, said, amazing. You have merged movies with real estate. Unbelievable. So he did like it. So you know what? It's a mood. Every one of them is different, and some of them are really horrible and some of them are really fun. And you know what? It's okay. And I just get them out there, and it's a way to change the marketing up. All right.
Let's hold it there for a second. We have to take a break. First, you are listening to Good Morning New York on the Voice America Variety Channel. Don't go away. Hey, everybody, we are back. And we're talking to Brian Lewis. We're keeping him for one more segment. So
yay.
We have a couple more questions to ask you. I'm very curious as to how you maintain and expand your circle of clients, because again, you're in this business for 16 years. I've declared you superstar success. You do very well. You live a nice life. How do you maintain what you've built over these years, and then how do you find more? That's what most people out there ask me, when I talk about real estate or how, it can be a lucrative field. How do you maintain this?
I keep asking for more. I think that when you stop asking for more in life, you die. I think that's what death is being satisfied. I'm not. We are in the best country in the world. We really are. I was listening this morning at the gym very early to Hamilton. You know the musical Hamilton?
I still can't get to see it, man.
It's remarkable, but then go listen to it. So go on Spotify and check it out. It's amazing, but it really it embodies a spirit that I think that I like to have. It makes me, the chill bump moments in life where you're like, you're not going to waste your shot. That's the theme of this. This is your shot. You're here. I don't know what you believe about why you're here, what. This is it. And maybe you get recycled or whatever, reincarnated if you believe that. Recycled. But this is it. So every day I ask for more. And when I wanted a family, I put it out there and I got it. So it's about lining up what you want, putting it out there and really bringing it to yourself because you can. I think of that little boy in Williamsburg at 4 years old, naming where he wanted to go to school. I was planting seeds and I worked toward it. I earned it and I got into that class and I didn't just work as a bellman. I went to the Four Seasons because I figured those are the richest people. So they're going to tip me better. And then when that changed and I went to the Actors Fund and I filled out a bubble sheet and said, I don't know what to do. There's an actor strike. I can't even do commercials and pretend I'm an actor right now. And they said, well, looking at your results, you should be in real estate. And I said, sign me up. So if it feels right, your internal GPS, roll with it. So when I'm with clients, I have a billionaire client who came in and he bought at 520 Park an entire floor. That's my biggest sale. And that's going to score like $22 million. That doesn't close yet because they're building it.
Right.
I asked him, please, did you enjoy this? Did you have fun? I did. I'm going to have more fun when that check comes. But tell your friends. If I can have, if you had a good ride, I'm here to help all of your friends. And I tell people that. It's
like they say in sales, Brian, if you don't ask for the order, you're not going to get it.
You're never going to get it.
Never going to get it.
I tell people in the listing, in my own way, you know what? I really would like this job and I have time and resources for you. And I think that's important for people to know. I don't always get it. I don't. There's a lot of competition here. There's a lot of competition around this country.
Lots.
But I always take away something from it. And sometimes I ask them why I didn't.
Really?
And sometimes they'll say, oh, I just thought you were too big for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So you have to adjust your marketing plan for that, because nobody wants to feel like they're a number ever. And that's true at the Four Seasons. That's true anywhere. And even as a young actor, sometimes I felt like a number. That's not a good feeling. That's not at all a good feeling.
Yeah. That's not a good feeling. Tell us about the Chris Maloney story. I mean, because it's been written up in the press. You know, I know it was listed for a lot more money than it eventually sold for under your tutelage, I'm sure. But give us a little bit of the background to that and how you were successful in making that deal finally sell and close.
Sure. I got a call from an attorney that I deal with a lot, and he said,
we're talking about the actor Chris Maloney, by the way.
Was on Law and Order and some other things. Nice guy. Never really had FaceTime with him. Only phone time and emails. His wife, lovely, unbelievable. Looks like Robin Wright, gorgeous. Love her. Had FaceTime with her. But anyway, they needed to sell this place. They had a tenant in there, and the attorney said, why don't you go talk to them? They're meeting a few people. So I did. I don't know why they chose me. I presented. I talked to them. I played the room I was in. She didn't want to be sold. So I couldn't be like, hey, I've got all this and I do this and I do that. It's just, I played the room I was in, which was a quick meeting at her apartment. And I got it, and I told them the sober, honest truth. I told them, whatever number you pick, I'll sell it. I'll sell the number you pick, but please don't pick me for price. Pick me for strategy. Pick the man or woman. Pick the person with the plan, not the price. Price is nimble. It can be changed at any minute. The market will decide your value, not me, not you. And if you're a real seller, we're going to find a really sweet place for you. Everything in your building has been sitting there with aspirational prices. So let's not base our reality on fantasy. Let's base it on reality. And here's the reality I see. If I'm wrong, you might get a bidding war and go up. And if I'm right, you'll probably be very close. We chose a strategy. They went with it, and they did it. I think they weren't ready when they hired the other agent and they had a higher price. And they had a weird strategy. They throw in a car or something. It was one of those like, hey, pay up and you get a car if you're a broker. I find that a smart seller does everything they can to appeal to the greed of the buyer, not the broker.
Interesting.
What a broker, just because he's going to get a car, is going to find a buyer to overpay.
Right.
What kind of broker is that if they're willing to let that happen?
Right, but it even doesn't work that way.
You know, look, you pay your commissions. I always say, look, commissions are a wonderful way to incentivize, but that's only part of it. Pay your agents. I have a vested interest in saying that, but it's true. Whenever I've sold something, I pay full on. And then the other thing is to price it right and choose the person with the plan and the reach. And if you don't like their silly videos, fine, but it could add to your value. It costs you nothing more. The guy's spending more of his own money. I do. And that's kind of it. And that's how we got Chris's place sold. He's a great guy, but I consider that a failure unless he gives me referrals. I always say, I don't want one sale from you. I'd love to earn your respect, earn your trust, your loyalty.
And don't be shy to ask for the referrals,
that's
actually, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And at the end of the day, you know, we have to remember, just like in the acting business, you know, you're only as good as your last gig. You're an independent contractor. You get paid for what you do. You get paid for what you sell. But in the middle of all that, or in between that, you have to find, you know, the next person and the next customer, or whether it's a buyer or a seller. In your case, seller. And obviously you get a lot of referrals. Is that where the majority of your business comes from?
You know what? A good third of it. I'd like to say all of it. I work hard. I'm mail to buildings. I still do the fundamentals because I don't see this as a hunting game. I see it as a farming game. So you're planting the seeds.
That's a very interesting analogy.
And that first field is the field you're grooming right now, and that's going to be your crop. One of the fields is where you're planting and getting ready, and the third field is resting and preparing for something else. Take care of yourself. Do things that make you happy. If your GPS goes off and it doesn't feel right, drop it. And listen to what you feel. Find things to focus on that make you feel attractive, literally and figuratively attractive. Take the time for that because people like to be, there's a feeling. It's not about your haircut and your amazing body and all that. That's part of it, maybe, if that's your thing. But it's more about how people feel around you and if they trust that. And if you don't feel attractive one day, then go and hang out and do computer work and do that. But get out there too. So many brokers just hang at that office and the money's on the street. And get out there. Join alumni groups. Volunteer. But do it for the right reasons because you really want to. Don't always be that guy just looking for that next thing. We all do that, but that's a hunter. Farm and groom and make it a career that lasts a while, and you'll have fun in the process.
And feel good about yourself. That's a good one, because you know what? This is a business that we can get knocked down more than not. And so if we don't feel good about ourselves and present ourselves every day in our best light, in our best way, you're not going to be successful. And again, that goes for a lot of professions, but I think in our business, most especially, and also, yeah, you're right. The business is out there on the streets. You know, I once had a manager when I was selling technology, and, you know, we would complain. I was in my 20s, you know, brand new at IBM. And he used to say, you know what, you're all complaining about where are the customers, where are the customers. He took us to the window, and we were at this beautiful glass tower on West 57th Street, the IBM building, and we looked out, and he said, you see all of those buildings, you see all of those windows. Mm-hmm. There is a customer behind every one of those windows. There's a customer behind every one of those windows. Just go and find them and come up with ways to talk to them and to tell them who you are and what you do and who you work for and what you're selling, etc. And guess what? Wow. Did it work? Anyway, Brian Lewis, we are out of time. I want to say thank you to you. You can find Brian's videos or any of his listed properties on brianklewis.com. He works for Halstead Property. He's a good friend. He's a good family man, and we love having him here. Thank you so much for being here.
You guys are awesome, and what you do is very inspirational to me. I appreciate being part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, and come back and see us again.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.